My name is George Hutton and I am doing an interview about the ethics of horse racing. Horse racing has been a popular sport and entertainment industry for centuries, but it also raises serious ethical questions about animal welfare, safety, and the treatment of racehorses. Supporters argue that the industry creates jobs, preserves traditions, and provides high level of care for horses, while critics believe that the risk of injury, whipping, and pressure placed on animals makes the sport unethical. Today there is an increasing debate over whether racehorses should continue in its current form, be heavily reformed, or be banned altogether. These questions explore different perspectives on the ethics of horse racing and the balance between sport, tradition, and animal. My name is George Hutton and I have managed to secure an interview with my grandfather, who has grown up around horses all his life, loves horse racing, and he's also owned one in the past. Do you think that horse racing is ethical?
Yes, I do. I think it's a wonderful recreation for people.
Do you think horse racing should continue in its current form?
Yes, I do.
Yep. And how do you feel about using animals in sports?
I think it's a silly question because man's always had horses in sports. I mean, the first sport in New Zealand, believe it or not, the first sport in New Zealand was racing in New Zealand. Racing before anything else, I tell you.
Yeah. What do you think about the people that think horse racing should be banned in New Zealand?
I think that's silly.
Why do you think it's silly?
Because there's nothing wrong with horse racing, and it gives a lot of people pleasure, and it gives a lot of employment to pit trainers and jockeys. It gives them a lifestyle which they love. They like doing it. Yeah, the horses give a lot of pleasure to people.
Do you think that racehorses live a better life than your average horse? And do you think they enjoy the competitive environment?
Yeah, I don't think there's any possible. No, I don't think there's anything wrong there for a racehorse at all. I've never seen it. I've never seen a racehorse being badly treated.
Do you think they live better than your average horse?
A well-trained, fit horse is spectacular to watch, George.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful sight.
Yes. And do you think the horses enjoy the competitive environment?
Some do, yeah. Some horses love racing and winning.
Yes.
They don't need to have a jockey sitting on them, smacking them with a whip at all. They want to win. They actually want to win, some racehorses do.
Yes.
Especially horses like Winks, who won 42 races. Crikey dick.
Yes.
Serious.
What do you think that in many ways racehorses preserves the thoroughbred breed and keeps it that sort of chain of horses going?
Of course, I sincerely do believe that. That's the main reason of a thoroughbred, is to race.
Yes. What do you think about some of the major reforms in horse racing?
Well, I don't know. I don't know of the reforms, so I couldn't really answer that question.
Some of the pushes, for major reforms. Sorry. some people want racing to be changed. I think rules like the jockeys aren't allowed to whip and things like that. What do you think about all that?
Well, I think jockeys only whip, they don't exactly whip the horse. They sort of, it's quite an exaggerated sort of sweep of the horse's flank when they're racing along. I don't think the whipping is a serious problem at all myself.
Yes. And you've owned shares in a horse and been to countless horse races, and you've grown up around horses your whole life.
Yeah.
How much enjoyment has not horses in general, but just racing brought to your life, would you say?
For me, it was 1 year of happiness when I owned a third share in a horse called Lagerfeld. And it was a steeplechase, and we won 3 races with him.
Yes.
It was a couple of years ago now. Yeah, Dennis Hazlitt and Jim Cassidy were my racing partners, and we had a wonderful time. And we won. We were up at the end of this last day, race day. We were up. Lots of people have raced horses, and they lose lots of money because a lot of race horses shouldn't really start racing. They're not really, they're not properly brought to the game at all, really. They're not properly fit when they start their first race and things like that, yeah. And too much of a hurry to get something out of the animal.
Do you think the public should be more aware of what goes on in horse racing? And, because I think a lot of the public they put up an argument of why they think it's this and why they think it's that, but they don't, they've never really experienced it. So do you think the public should be more aware of racing and what happens in horse racing?
I don't see the need for that at all, George. I don't think, no. I think the way that we run our racing industry in New Zealand is quite good, really. I really do feel that. I've never seen any bad treatment, and there's no rat bags, stealing money on the rate and the betting side of it all, and any of that sort of stuff. Yes. It's quite a good, clean sport.
And
it's a good, clean sport.
What do you think about the TAB and all of the betting on horse racing?
Well, unfortunately, the TAB own racing in New Zealand now.
Yes.
And they've they have centralised it. And you've got to have the TAB on your side if you're a racing club and you wish to survive. Otherwise, it's very difficult because you don't have the public going to your races, race meeting. It becomes very difficult in the whole thing. For that club, it dies. You've got to have people come into races and putting money on the toe, and that's what it's all about. And that's where the money comes in, and that's where you take money out of that to pay for the stakes. But every now and again you have good men who make quite a lot of money, and like old Seth Stevens, a few years ago, he created a trust for the Waihora Racing Club, which doesn't exist anymore now, I'm afraid. I don't know what's happened to that fund, but it was there to pay for the 2-mile race that they had. Yeah. Seth Stevens Trust it was, yeah.
And one last question. What is your view on whipping and horse racing?
It doesn't worry me at all, George. I've never, ever seen anyone doing anything bad with the actual race itself. I've never seen a jockey maltreat a horse at all. You can't. It's not that easy to do. And they don't do it anyway. Most jockeys are good little chaps. They do what they're told, and they look after the horse that they're riding.
Yes. Right. I have also managed to secure an interview with the executive president of the Animal Justice Party. So let's hear what he has to say about the ethics of horse racing. Do you think that horse racing is ethical?
No, our policy is to ban horse racing in New Zealand.
Yes. Yes. How do you feel about using animals in sport?
I mean, yeah, it's one of our core ideals, our core values would be to not use animals for sports and entertainment.
Do you think the benefits of horse racing outweigh the harms, or the harms outweigh the benefits?
Definitely think the harms outweigh the benefits, especially for the horses.
Yes. What is your view on the whipping in the horse racing?
Yeah, I mean, despite them saying that it doesn't hurt, it is a whip and it's designed to correct behaviour. So it's hard to support the use of a whip, and we do not support that.
Yes. Do you think that society treats racehorses fairly?
No, I mean, the concept of a racehorse, of an animal or any being that could feel just being bred, trained, used, and then raced is by definition not fair.
Yes. And do you think
Hi, I'm Noah Leith and I've done an investigation on 4-day work weeks.
How great does a 3-day weekend sound? The 4-day work week is a growing trend in businesses all around the world. This trend is changing the way people think about work. There have been many studies done on this topic, and there have been overall more benefits than downsides. I have interviewed Eli Coles, a student at Christ College School, Nick Leith, the principal of Redcliffe School, and Kylie Stafford, General Manager of Shopper and Retail Marketing at the company Hyper, to hear their thoughts on this topic. Do you think you would get as much done if you only had a 4-day work week?
I think I probably would, because, I don't feel quite out of it on a Friday, and I'd prefer to just have a 4-day week and then work on myself on the weekend, have more time that I can do in the weekend, and, as the late, great Frankie Cotgrave said, it's the weekend.
In my job, I would still get as much done if I had a 4-day work week. I would also still get as much done if I had a 7-day work week. So, because I'm in a school, the work week ends, I can't do any more work at school.
I absolutely do. I think that I would have to work longer hours, but I would be okay with that. So currently I work around about 40 hours in the office, but if I had if I had to do work longer hours, I would squeeze all that into longer days easily. It would be, it would make my life so much easier.
Overall, all 3 of my candidates agreed that they would get as much work done if they had a 4-day work week. Do you think you would be more motivated if you had 4-day work weeks?
I feel like I would, because it would motivate me to get to the end of the week. And even though I enjoy doing some work, it would be good to, work on myself and having a 3-day weekend, spending time with the family.
On the whole, I'd say probably, but I'd also say that it probably wouldn't make much difference. Like, I'm motivated at work. If I had an extra day off, I would apply other things to that day rather than work.
Would make my day. I'd be so motivated because I know I would have less hours. So then I would, my workload doesn't change, and I know what I have to get in a week. So I would definitely be more motivated, knowing that I had another day off, like an additional day off. So yes.
Overall, my 3 candidates agreed that they would be more motivated to get their work done in the week. Although Nick said that he is already pretty motivated and the extra day will only make a little difference. What would you do with the extra day on the weekend?
I would enjoy my weekend, hang out with my family, and do stuff that I enjoy, hang out with my friends. And Noah, you know me very well, so, I would also kind of relax.
I would have a lot more life admin sorted, that's for sure, and probably have time to plan things a bit more in our lives as a family, and hopefully be a bit more active with that extra day rather than just watching stuff or consuming stuff.
Would do all the things that I never get done in the week now. So I'd probably spend a lot more time on my own sort of like mental health and well-being. So I'd love to just do things like go for a nice walk, take my dogs for a walk, do all those things that I always run out of time to do during the week. And then when the weekend comes around, I feel like I would enjoy my weekends better because I've got all my kind of like admin and things done on that sort of life admin and stuff done on my extra day to myself.
My 3 candidates had different responses for what they would do with that extra day on the weekend. Eli said he would hang out with friends and relax. Nick said he would do life admin, and Kylie said she would spend time on her mental health and well-being. How do you think the 4-day work week will affect big companies?
I feel like it could lower production at the start, but in the end they will adapt to it and the workers will be happier and more sound.
I think there's a lot of research out there already that shows that a 4-day work week benefits everybody. It certainly doesn't affect profitability because people work harder in the 4 days or work well. There's less sickness. I think in my job, it's not a big company, but it's a big industry, and I guess, there'd be a lot more balance and less disruption.
I actually think if there's staff, if it's communicated well, and I think people would appreciate it more. So people would work extra hours during the week. So I think motivation would be a lot higher because people feel happy to have that additional day to themselves or that extra long weekend. So I'm all for it. I reckon it would be great. And I think companies would be better off working longer hours during, and shorter weeks. There are lots of companies in New Zealand already doing it, and it works really well for them. And I think it doesn't work for all companies. Like it might not work for more like builders and more labour type jobs, but in the environment that I work in, which is more corporate, I think it could absolutely work.
My 3 candidates also agreed that big companies would definitely benefit from having 4-day work weeks. Kylie did mention that it won't work for all companies though. She reckoned that it would not work for building companies as building takes more time than other jobs. After interviewing all 3 of my candidates, all of them supported the idea of having a 4-day work week. They agreed that they would get as much work done and they would feel more motivated doing it. My 3 candidates said they would spend the extra day relaxing, spending time with family and friends, and one of my candidates also mentioned that they would spend this extra day improving their mental health and well-being. The 3 all agreed that big companies can benefit from the 4-day work week also. Overall, my candidates agreed that there are a lot more benefits than downsides to the topic of 4-day work weeks.
Good morning, everyone. Performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs for short, are drugs that accelerate recovery, increase muscle gain, and overall help performance. Unfortunately, each has many heavy downsides, and their use is heavily banned in sports. Though, as with everything, given enough time, people will discover ways to make things safer and more effective. Given a few decades, I believe we will reach a time where PEDs have minimal risk. I am Yanchin Jha, and I love watching sports, especially when people are performing at their best. Today I will be interviewing people about the morality and fairness of PEDs, given no side effects. From the potential interviewees I asked, 5 got back to me. I was able to get an in-person interview with Malachi Rattray, a student athlete who competes nationally in athletics and is also a star rugby player. I also interviewed Ben McBrearty, who was the head of sport in Christ College, a school in Canterbury, New Zealand. Sky Sport representative Michelle Pickles replied, stating that at Sky Sport NZ and High Performance Sport NZ, they strongly advise against any use of performance-enhancing drugs in any setting, and therefore do not want to participate in the interview. A similar reply was given from Triton Swim Club. Ruben from Triton Swim Club states, I appreciate you taking the time to explain your podcast topic. However, Triton is completely against the use of PEDs in sport. We have a strong zero-tolerance stance on this issue. Because of this, we do not want to participate in the interview. Ben Sheep, assistant coach of the Canterbury Rams, was unable to be interviewed in person, but replied to the questions via email. In this radio segment, Sheet's comments will be voiced by Alex Sutton. Unfortunately, when showing peers the recordings, many stated they were unable to hear Sutton clearly due to the speed of his voice. Therefore, all of Sutton's voiceovers will be slowed down slightly. To start the interview, I asked the men if PEDs should be used in sport if it was fully safe with no consequences. Mr. McBrearty replied,
No, and I guess my short answer is no, but my long answer is we need to be guided by the World Anti-Doping Authority, so WADA, and the New Zealand equivalent of that. So whatever the rules are, sports rules and regulations are really important in sports so that there's a level playing field. So first and foremost, if there was a rule change, that's something that we can talk about, but then there's obviously the moral and ethical side of it as well.
Malachi had a similar opinion, but stated it more emotively.
No, you sacks. If you take drugs, you're a bum.
When asked to further elaborate, Malachi said,
Personally, if you're taking things to make you better without actually putting the work in, you shouldn't be doing it anyway.
Sheet says that
I do not think they should be. I think it blows the line too much, and using them can create ethical issues. I believe that would not be good for sport. Yeah, I think it blows the line and creates an unfair playing field on those who can access.
I next asked the men if they see PEDs and enhanced competitions as the future for sport. Mr. McBrearty replied no.
No. Well, I guess fairness and equity is really important in sport. So at that point in time, I think if we're doing it in the enhanced games, at that point in time, it's the organisations with the most resources, the best scientists, the best money, or the most money, and the best pharmaceutical programs rather than the best athletes. So if sport is to find the best athlete, whether that's strength or skill, I think it needs to be pure.
The other two had similar opinions.
No, I do not see enhanced sport as the future of sport.
I think it would create unsafe and unfair playing fields, so I hope that they aren't. I can see there being a large market for this in sports like MMO and pushing the boundaries, and also like in basketball. And the NBA teams play 82-game seasons, including the playoffs. So PEDs could help a player recover and lessen injuries.
I finally asked the men what they would think from a viewership standpoint, if they would be more interested in watching enhanced sport as opposed to natty sport. Though again, all the men disagreed, with Mr. McBrearty describing it as similar to watching robots.
No. Watch robots, I think, at that point in time.
No, because then you just see records breaking everywhere, and then lots of people get injured more, and yeah. If you're getting records broken while using steroids, it's basically just cheating.
I do not necessarily think they would be more interested.
In conclusion, it seems the men do not like PEDs in sport, stating opinions that it might not feel human, it being too dangerous, or just not fair and not for the spirit of the sport. But do remember that this is just 3 people, and that other opinions might be stated from other people.
Hi, my name is Fergus McKenzie and I'm reporting from Christ College, the newsroom. I am reporting on a topic about cost of living in New Zealand.
Hello, this is Fergus McKenzie reporting from Christ College, the newsroom. Living in New Zealand can be pretty expensive, especially when it comes to rent, groceries and gas. A lot of people find it hard to save money because everyday costs keep going up. Even with a full-time job, it can still be difficult to afford everything comfortably. This makes it stressful for many people trying to manage their money each week. Imagine working full-time every week and still struggling to afford everyday necessities. This is the reality for many people in New Zealand today. When people think about pay in New Zealand, it is important to look at the cost of living as well as the wages. Even though New Zealand produces large amounts of dairy and meat and groceries that are still expensive for many families, it is quite hard to live with the prices. One reason for this is that the companies can often earn more money by selling their products overseas, so New Zealanders do not always benefit from lower. Another reason for that is larger supermarket chains control most of the grocery market, which means there is less competition to keep prices down. At the same, housing has become much less affordable, especially for young people in New Zealand. Many young New Zealanders find it difficult to buy a house without financial help from their parents because prices are so high compared to their incomes. A person earning minimum wage could spend between 12 and 20 years or more saving for a 20% deposit on a home. In some cases, a person earning minimum wage could spend between 12 and 20 years or more saving for a 20% deposit on a home. This is very different from previous generations, who often found it easier to enter the housing market. Overall, New Zealand can be an expensive place to live in. Rent, groceries, petrol, and other everyday expenses have increased significantly, making it hard for people to save money. Even people working full-time can struggle to cover their expenses and still have money left over at the end of the week because the cost of living continues to rise. Many New Zealanders feel pressure on their finances and are concerned about whether wages are increasing fast enough to keep up. This raises an important question. Is the pay that people receive in New Zealand enough to support a comfortable and affordable lifestyle? By looking at the relationship between wages and the cost of living, we can better understand the financial challenges facing many New Zealanders today. I asked the interviewers 3 questions. How did you afford your first house, and how long did it take you to save up? Why do you think living in New Zealand is so expensive? How has the cost of living changed in New Zealand since you have been a child? I'm starting up one of the interviews with talking to Kirsty Alstone, the head of Food Bank and Financial Services and team lead in New Zealand.
So how did I afford my first house?
Yes, and how long did it take you to save up?
So I haven't bought a house personally. I haven't been able to save enough money to be able to buy my own first house.
Sweet. Okay,
I think it's a combination of things. We're so far away from New Zealand's quite isolated from other nations where a lot of things have to be brought into New Zealand. So there's the cost of bringing it into New Zealand. So the fuel and everything obviously adds the extra cost at the moment to items. We have some stuff here in New Zealand, but we also export a lot of our stuff. So some of our good quality stuff is going overseas and our less quality stuff's been sold here in New Zealand. So I think it's a combination. New Zealand's expensive because we are so removed from the rest of the world. And you know, things are expensive to be able to get brought in, but also just day to day, you know, the mum and dad shops that used to be quite affordable are now having overheads from rents. That's all gone up. Rates in New Zealand's gone up. The cost of just having vehicles on the road, everything that we pay has just gone up. Yeah, I would say dramatically. I remember when we used to go to the dairy and be able to get like 50-cent mixes, which would probably be bigger than a $3 bag you guys can get today. Things were cheaper because you made do with what you had, and you used to make and grow, you know, you used to grow all your own vegetables because you had the land at your house to be able to do it. Where now a lot of the properties to get more houses onto land, we're giving people less land. We've got people who don't know how to do some of those basic, you know, cooking, you know, growing stuff, foraging, you know, being able to sort of survive. When I was younger, we sort of made do with what we could find and what we could afford. And I always sort of think, you know, if you look at mince now, when I was young, that was the cheap meat that we used to have, where now it's not the cheap meat at all.
From my interviews, most people agreed that living in New Zealand has become much more expensive over time. They said that house prices, rent, groceries, petrol and power bills have all increased a lot compared to when they were younger. Many people felt that it takes longer to save money now, especially for things like buying your first home. Some said they had to save for years and make sacrifices to afford a house. Overall, the interviews showed that the cost of living has risen faster than many people's incomes, making it harder for families and young people to get ahead financially.
Hi, I'm Niall Nisbet, a Year 10 student at Christ College, and I'm doing an interviewing others and doing a research topic on wildlife zoos, parks, what's the difference essentially.
I'm James Carrot, and I investigated who was the greatest Formula One driver ever.
Formula One, the pinnacle of motorsport. Began in the 1950s, it has been a racing icon for more than 76 years. In almost every sport, there's always a debate about the greatest of all time. From Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. What about Formula One? Who truly deserves the title of greatest F1 driver ever? Is it the dominance of Schumacher, the records of Lewis Hamilton, or the raw talent of people like Ayrton Senna? To find out, I spoke to a few people, got their opinions on who they think stands above the rest in F1 history. Let's see where everyone stands.
Unfortunately, Mr. Amber, the one I was going to interview, fortunately couldn't be with me at the time of recording, and so he sent me a written response of his answers. Alright, here we go. Hi James. What I think a great Formula One world champion is defined by is coming together of many elements. Raw instinct, speed, supreme physical conditioning, understanding strategy, profound mental resilience. But at the heart of it, they must remain aggressive and composed during high-stakes wheel-to-wheel combat. While the record books are dominated by staggering cold statistics of Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, I think the greatest F1 driver is measured by far more than just a spreadsheet. Ayrton Senna remains the ultimate benchmark of racing greatness because of his raw intensity and composed free commitment has brought him into the cockpit operating at absolute red edge of danger in an era of brutal manual turbochargers. Senna possessed an instinct far surpassed any driver on the grid with major competition. He was able to push machinery to the absolute physical limits of it. His legendary performances include some staggering qualifying, margins not merely as fast that they would transcend other icons, immaculate numbers. Senna is what is the definition of what it means to push a car to the absolute limit. Another telling sign is when the other race car drivers on the current grid say, "Who's the GOAT?" they all say Ayrton Senna. See, Mr. Ambler's got a point. Senna, most people say, is the greatest of all time. If drivers say it, most people say it too. But where I think he's really got it is that he can push a car to its physical limits. Now, in 1988, Senna was at Monaco and he delivered the best lap of maybe the greatest lap of all time. He qualified about P8 and his car wasn't doing too well. He put on a new pair of softs and he went out there. He delivered one of the best laps I've ever seen, pushing the car to the limit, getting close to the wall as possible. And he got 2 seconds off the leader. Now, 2 seconds may not seem much to a random person, but 2 seconds is like an eternity in Formula One. And that's why most people say Senna's the GOAT. Hey, so like Mr. Ambler, my dad couldn't be here to do my interview. He was really busy at work and all that. But so we're just going to do it. Now, he sent me a written response, and here we go. 1970s, the most romantic F1 year ever. The best music, the best tracks, a great war underway in Vietnam. The greatest driver? Oh, well, I'm not sure. If I had to say, Fangio was smooth as silk. Moss won GPs in uncompetitive machinery. Jim Clark was untouchable in his prime. But certainly greater than Stewart. Who I think is the greatest one is Graham Hill. Now, Graham Hill has an achievement that not all drivers have. He's actually the only one to do it. And mostly, you're not allowed to go from race to race, yada yada, in different sports. But back in the day, that wasn't a thing. Now, the Triple Crown is an achievement only done by him. And you have to win the Indy 500, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and the Formula One World Championship. If you win all 3 of those races, you get the Triple Crown. And he's the only man to ever do it. In all the years that the sport's been around, he's the only world champion to ever do it. Now, with a title and an achievement like that, I reckon that's why he's the greatest driver ever. He's no Schumacher, no Hamilton, but he's definitely better than both of them combined. Now, Dad, yeah, he's got a point. No one's ever won the Triple Crown, and understandably so. It's such a hard achievement to get. No one's really done it. And Graham Hill was a formidable driver, challenging Ayrton Senna every race and winning a world championship from him. And that is nothing to scoff at. Nothing to scoff at all. So, I reckon that is a great opinion from him.
So thank you, Max, for being here today. I just want to ask you a couple of questions about who's the greatest Formula One driver ever. I know you have some a bit of knowledge, and so I just want to ask you a few questions. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay. What do you think defines a world champion?
The world champion. Usually, the world champion, they'll be in the fastest car. They'll be probably with the best team.
Yep.
But does that make them the world champion? I think not. I think the world champion isn't always the best driver, but the driver that handles the pressure the best in the moment. Now, you can argue that does make them the best. Like, as you see, with a lot of drivers that are younger, not as able under the pressure, usually lose out nearly towards the end. I mean, Oscar Piastri, 2025, had a big lead, but ended up losing it, I think, due to the pressure of being the leading. But for a driver like Max Verstappen, who we know can deliver in tough moments, I think that is what a world champion is. Someone who can deliver under pressure and when it matters.
Okay. Who do you think is the greatest one to ever do it?
Ooh. Now, this is a hard question. Personally, I would say, I think personally that the best Formula One driver world champion of all time is probably Lewis Hamilton. I mean, done it 7 times, did it mostly cleanly. Was well known, has used that to really build himself up, and even after the age of 40, he's still stuck around and he's still getting good results in sport. I think his longevity, his ability under the pressure, no matter what, he's always been able to deliver, He's always able to get those points, get a good result in the race, do well. I mean, you can see it this season, he's really bounced back, It took a season to get used to that Ferrari seat, now he's right back into it. He's 4th place in the championship, I think. And to even look on earlier seasons, his first season Formula One, he almost wins it. Second season, he was world champion. I think that makes a great driver, and that's, to me, why he's probably the best world champion of all time.
Now, from what we've got 3 different drivers. Lewis Hamilton, Graham Hill, and Ayrton Senna. Now, who is the greatest? Well, if we get down to stats, it's Hamilton. If we get down to pushing a machine, pass this a little bit to Senna. And if we go for achievements, we've got Graham Hill. Now, who's the greatest? Well, it's a matter of preference, but it's actually for you to decide.